All right.
A lot of anxiety in a conversation with them this week. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't think you're ready for this. This is what
Yeah.
Just, may not be ready for
We were
it,
just
but-
talking about that earlier, that the past life stuff makes total sense, but like, I still have hesitation talking about it just because it's like, and the way Sam says it is like, everything in the past life doesn't matter, it happens in our childhood. Everything that has happened already, we get it. That's the karma, right? That's the karma is everything that has happened. Our childhood is about absorbing all of our karma, right? So, we don't need to go back, we got it all here.
Yes, sometimes your soul remembers that.
Yeah.
And it hangs on to, we can talk about that later, but
Yeah.
I'll give you the context of the conversation another time, it might make more sense.
Okay, so today,
You're not ready for this.
what we're gonna do today is activate our planets. That's what we're doing. So, within ourselves, these forces are present, and this is just another way of understanding like our composition, right? What we're made of, and different parts of us are doing different things. And just like we've got arms and legs, our astral self has different limbs, and that's how we understand it, is by putting a planet to it, right? So the planets of Vedic astrology are the moving objects that can be observed in the sky, which there are 7: Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. So the ones that we've got the 2 luminaries, real obvious, right? But then if we were just to sit around and look at the sky, we'd see 5 more that are moving just a little bit in front of the background stars, but those are the ones we can only see with our eyes. And that light, they're points of light, and that light, the word light in Vedic is like consciousness, right? Our consciousness is light, right? And that's why Jyotish is the science of light, right? We're looking at the things that we can see and reflect light back at us, because they're the keepers of our karma, right? So they're like the teachers of a certain lesson.
The planets.
The planets are. So the same energy that is a planet up there is also present in us, right? Like that isn't just a hunk of physical material, it's a seed vibration. And that vibration is universal in all of life. So,
Can we talk a little bit about the vibration, because Gepi talks about this, about how each of the planets vibrates, and that as we move along the path and get in touch with our, I don't know if I want to say karmic being, is that fair to say, karmic being, or our karma?
yeah.
Okay.
We
That
kind of
we will-
integrate it, right? We're
As we
integrated
will
with it.
sense the vibrations more intuitively and significantly.
Yes,
And then that will help to inform us as to
exactly.
how to be.
So this is what today is to go, what is that vibration in here? And that's what your homework is this week, is to go in here and see which part of you resonates with that, and just be like, oh, that's the thing that I do when I do this, right?
Very interesting.
And when you say move along the path, you mean move along the path of awakening?
The continuum,
Of
yes, of
consciousness,
awakening,
not
yes.
necessarily like age, but
Right,
just.
Yeah.
like Q in Star Trek.
Self-realization.
Because it all goes
Yeah.
back to Star Trek.
Okay, now I do have one other quick question, because I mentioned this to her earlier.
Yeah.
Did you see the moon this morning and the sun?
I didn't know.
It was kind of like an.
It was like a sliver.
A sliver,
Yeah.
but it was Earth, I'm guessing. The sun was shining on Earth, and then the moon was in the background with just a part of it.
The
But
silhouette.
it was like straight out of being in one of my sci-fi things.
Oh.
Because it was just, because you had the object of the Earth that was blocking part of the moon. So the Earth was completely dark.
Uh-huh.
And then the moon was partially illuminated. So I'm
Okay.
guessing the sun had to be shining in that way. Anyway, I just thought, because we've been
Yeah.
talking about the energy this week,
Yeah.
being
A
like
little
things-
wackadoodle.
And I didn't know if you might have
Hang out with
noticed
4-year-old.
the lunar arrangement or anything like that?
Well, yeah, I look at it every day to see where we're at, right? And so.
I think that's so cool that that's your job.
I like it.
I was like,
where the moon is.
well, because I mapped out when we'd start this course,
Yep.
and so I paid attention to the first day, but I wasn't really looking at each subsequent week to look at where everything was at. So I was going, okay, where are we at today? And I was like, all right, we're Leo moon today, right? So if we look up at the moon, it's going to be in front of the stars of Leo, and it's in a place called Maga, and that is the royal star, they call it. And so the Shakti of Maga is the power to leave your body. And so it's the deity of Maga is the Pitris, the divine ancestors. So this is like the king takes his throne because of birthright, right? And we all live our life because of birthright, right? So it's just that feeling, of connected to the genetics, right? So I just thought it was cool today that's that. I can kind of just tap into the rishis, and so we can talk about that.
That's really cool. Awesome.
Divine ancestors, right? That's
All about the
The
ancestors.
divine ancestors, all right, yeah.
It's just, religion doesn't have to hear me, but we just keep going. Yeah, you're back.
So the Sanskrit word for planet is graha, which is the origin of words like grasp and grab. Because the planets are the keepers of our karma, and when they activate, they like grab us. And so when like the dasha cycle changes, like the major cycle, you're gonna feel it, it'll be a grasp. So when their time comes, they will grab our attention, deliver a karma that have that, with that particular energy.
It's interesting, graha, because in yoga philosophy, when you talk about niyamas and the niyamas by Patanjali, a parigraha is one of the niyamas, and parigraha means non-hoarding, non-grasping, if you would. So, planet's grasping,
They
and
grasp
you don't
that.
want to do that when you want to relinquish control. So.
Yeah, so it's like we have to say, because we've got a lot of plans, and then when the thing changes, it's like we change, like, and it's saying you're coming along with me, like it or not. And that's why those points before and after, when they change, you'll see a lot of people with major events in those periods, and me included.
Well, curiously, based on that and the sitting in the birthright place, in lieu of the impeachment hearings, I'm wondering how the planets line up.
And you know what Trump's rising star is?
Yeah.
MAGA.
Fascinating.
Like, what's his political slogan?
Make
MAGA.
Yeah, make America great again.
MAGA.
Yeah,
Like,
MAGA.
you can't
right.
make that
right,
up.
the MAGA hats.
Like, you can't
right,
make
MAGA
that up.
hats,
And
right.
it's like, the
Wow.
issue with MAGA is how tribal it is. And, like, Leo can be like, this is my family, this is my tribe, and then everyone's not in that tribe is the enemy, right? It's that the sun has this distinction about it, right? So it's like, we have to remember that we're all the tribe, right? So that's what the challenge of MAGA is, like, to remember that we're here to provide for all of existence, not just like the sun. That's not just my family, my circle. We're all children of God, right? That's how we have to.
I don't think he got that.
He didn't get that. He was born
He missed that memo.
during a lunar eclipse,
Wow.
like, for real, like, exact moment of the lunar eclipse.
So, I mean, I know, because we keep going on these little segues, but come back
He
to
hasn't even
this
gotten
for a
through the
moment,
first
because it
paragraph.
makes sense. You're talking about one individual, but there's a collective entity, like all of the others, that really helped propel someone like that into position. So I'm just curious, from an astrological sense, I mean, are we not always talking about the larger collective body with then, I guess, in a sense, this diaspora of little individual ones that, are ill-informed and or, I don't even want to use that they're just
Or a product of society.
It's like a
that should
shotgun
help to raise
blast.
them well.
You know, you have all of the little ones out there, but if they're all part of the larger whole, then again, it comes back to this idea, we kind of say, well, this one person, but it's not really the one person, it's
Right.
all of the
The
pellets
leaders are
that
the,
all over the place.
the collective, right?
Created
The leaders, our leaders are a collection of all of our consciousness, right? That they don't have, that doesn't happen without every single one of us having some responsibility.
Exactly,
And
that's what I'm trying to ask.
That's what rubbed me a little bit the wrong way with everybody with the Greta thing this
Oh, the
this
Greta
week.
thing,
I was
yeah.
like, I want everyone to be real careful right now because we're giving away our power. And that's what I really wanted to be like. The victim is your fault that it's this way. It's the leader's fault. It's that 1%. That whole thing is all of us experiencing that karma of the tribal thing. It's like my tribe is way down here and your tribe is way up here. We have to take some responsibility there and be like, it's within our power to, because we're the collective, right? If we all decide that that is no longer part of our paradigm, it can't exist anymore. So that's within our power. But to answer your question, Maga is part somewhere in everybody's chart, right? Because the whole sky is involved in our consciousness. So, but there are charts for like countries, and like we're all part of different, like I said, just like there's bigger cycles, there's bigger and bigger charts of, you know, we're part of the United States and it's got its own karma because of when it was started. And I'm sure the earth has its own chart, you know. It's like,
Cities
and
yeah.
we're all going through
Schools,
cycles on
churches,
a
da, da, da.
personal to collective level, and it's all going on, you know. And that's really Neo stuff hacking into that matrix.
Well, in
I
a
can't
way,
even understand my own chart.
Yeah.
Just call me worthless.
Right.
really, like, this could just be a fascinating, I don't even know, it would be like beyond history in a way, but it is a form of doing historical
Recon.
Yeah.
study. I mean, it's like a whole realm of
Yeah.
dissertations and theses that can be done on cities and states and just communities, just based upon what you're alluded to.
Just knowing the time and place and
Yeah.
all that stuff where they became the country or became the city,
Right.
became all that. Yeah, it's like when I started this course, I saved that one because that's when my teacher thing came to be, right? It's like, that's my teacher chart, you know? So each little thing we do is sets off a little, that's the karma, right? It sets off the ripples of everything else. All right, here we go. Let's finish the first paragraph. All right, so the ancient saying goes, as above, so below, as within, so without, which tells us that while we're part of the solar system is also part of us. We can understand the source energy that manifests into planets by connecting with the same energy that manifests within ourselves. So here's a summary of all 7 energetic forces to help you recognize these 7 planets within you. There's also the lunar nodes, but I'm not going there in this course, just because until we learn everything we're gonna learn,
Yeah,
we'll
Rob
never
can't
understand
do-
them,
yeah.
because they like absorb everything and are a combination of everything they touch and everything they're in. So it's like, until
A whole
we,
other 5
it's
to
like
6 weeks
that's
course.
not 101.
Yeah, Rob and Katsu have their own
Yeah.
thing, so, yeah.
They like are amplifying.
We'll
They're
look forward
amplifying
to
and
the next
magnifying.
series.
Yeah, right. So let's start with the sun. That's our solar power. It's our source of power and vitality, both in the sky and within ourselves. The capacity to express ourselves in the world and empower others is related to the sun. So on a physical level, it's our body's health and vitality, right? So everything in existence is alive because of the sun's energy, and that's us too, right? Our charisma, our power, like that life coming through us. So through our mind, our capacity to maintain career responsibilities and provide for our family is related to the sun. So that being the provider of the family, like that generosity, that giving, that not expecting, you know, not demanding anything back. You're just, I'm providing for my family. Right? And then at a spiritual level, our ability to purify in body, mind, and spirit, becoming one with the universe, reaching enlightenment, comes from the sun. So that's pretty important. Just like the sun, we have to be generous with our unique gifts and talents, sharing our light without expecting anything in return.
Fruits of labor. And this is sharing it across the spectrum.
Just like the sun. We don't have to put a quarter in and
Yes.
say, keep lighting, please, right? It's doing it no matter what.
And whoever you are, wherever you are,
You could
you
be the
get the
worst
sun.
scumbag in the
Yeah, you're
entire
still gonna
universe,
have
you
sun.
still get sunlight.
Right.
Yeah.
Sun shines on everybody
Yeah,
equally.
that's just purity, right?
Unless you're in Oregon.
Right, yeah, then you gotta do it.
Unless you're in Fiji.
So,
More within.
Exactly,
so the sun gives us an independent sense of purpose, and it wants to express our authentic self, right? So it's our swag.
Sun's our jam.
Right, that, someone with a really powerful sun is just purely themselves, just unapologetic, they are themselves. I don't modify, this is who I am. My son has got an extremely exalted son. And he's just, William, you can't, that's who you're dealing with is him, and that's what you gotta deal with, right? You're not changing him. So, on the spectrum of the sun is sliding it down to the dark would be like, when we don't have any access to it, would be like that weakness and impotent, like that I give in, just can't be powerful, I'll trade in, compromising all of my values. There's no integrity, right? With this, when you just can't do the sun things, there's no integrity. But then you slide it to the other end of the scale when it's like excess, it's that dominate, demand respect.
So where
Just-
does, like, that's what I was thinking when you were saying somebody who has a strong sun, they're sure of themselves, like, how do you, like, somebody who's egotistical, they would be.
That would be
on the
like
opposite.
past that point where it's
Yeah.
in the, you wanna see it in that nice balance of they're just themselves, it's integrity, it's just what you wanna see in a leader, right?
Yeah,
But on the sliding it into the excess, right, like we look at Trump, right?
and that's.
Demand
yeah.
respect, yeah, this is me, and dominate, right, that dominating,
Very
that's,
aggressive.
yeah, right, so like, that leadership is just in excess, it's like, if you have any challenge to my authority, I'm gonna bury you, and I'm gonna gravitate towards those yes men, and those people that just, those weaker satellites, right, like the sun needs the little balls of rocks floating around it saying, yes, you're the greatest thing there ever was. Right, so that's where you see the excess is just I need everyone around me to be like, worship me, right? But then
Sun god.
flip it to the other end of the spectrum, it's like, I worship everyone else because I have no power, I can't access it, right? So it's like the
dominating.
master and the slave.
So like
right?
the dominating and the codependent.
That's right, yeah. Like I have to compromise everything that's important to me because I'm not powerful enough to stand on my own. So the key word would be authenticity. So when you're going into your reflection to think about where's my sun power? What's the part of me that's the sun? What's the part of you that can kind of step up, step out and provide, right? Just be yourself, and as you're out there, you don't lose who you are. Does that make sense? And you can most likely find a time when you did it perfectly. And that's what we want to tune into. Tune into that one time that you just thought, I did it. And I did it so great. That's how it's supposed to be done, right there. And then just recognize where you're at with that, where your karma is with that planet. What is my sun vibrating at right now? Do I feel like I can step up and step out and still maintain who I am? Or do I, when it gets a little bit, I panic and feel like, oh, what do they want? You know, do I have to be this to get attention? You know, just notice where that is. Everybody got the sun?
Got it.
Okay.
Sunned up.
Sunned up. Okay. Now we're solar. We're gonna switch to loony. Okay, the moon. So the sun was everything going out, pouring out of you. The moon's everything you're absorbing, coming in. It's our source of rhythm and balance, both in the sky and within ourselves. The capacity to be receptive and establish an emotional connection with other people is related to the moon. So on a physical level, our body's fertility cycles and sensitivity to environmental change comes from the moon. And then through the mind, our capacity to like feed and nurture and respond to other people's needs. It's related to the moon's energy. And at a spiritual level, our ability to allow, accept, and integrate with each moment exactly as it is comes from the moon. Just like the moon, we have to allow our light to wax and wane with no attachments and no aversions.
Can you explain a little bit about waxing and waning?
So just like the moon gets really bright and then it gets really dark, right?
Okay.
So it's like sometimes we're on it, other times we just need to
When
hide.
it's really bright, it's waxing.
So waxing is getting brighter,
Got it.
waning is getting darker.
And from an astrological standpoint then, does it depend, is it generally the rule that one would not be wanting to undertake things during a waning period, or does that depend upon all of the other planets in the mix? Or
That's
does it-
one thing that you look at, like the
Okay.
waning moon. When it's waning, it's more like the harvest time where you're kind of getting stuff done. It's not where you'd want to like start something brand new, right? So it kind of just, you would fit all that as like, sometimes you have to, right? I don't have a choice. I'm starting this now. Let's pick a day in this range. Let's see which one the moon's in, then kind of be like, that one will support it, right? So it's just one thing. One piece of information is waning. So just like the newborn baby, all it can do is ever absorb what's happening. There's a part of us that's still that brand new newborn baby, absorbing everything from our environment, keeps track of everything that's happened. We could go into hypnosis and come up with the reading on my clock when I passed that sign 2 hours ago, right? Like it's all imprinted on me, and we can't necessarily access it all the time. Some of it's under the conscious level, some of it's consciousness. But that moon is that part of us that just absorbs, right? So the thing I say is like the moon's job is to be 100% integrated with infinite. So the moment is never the same twice, and we have to be able to integrate with exactly everything every moment. No big deal.
Yeah, okay. So is folks in our embodied existence who have difficulty with that, like people who have difficulty with letting things be as they are, you know, and just kind of being able to be more like the witness, you know, and stepping back, do they typically have a debilitated moon?
There's different things that the moon can be with that kind of do things to it, like it can be in a certain house, a certain sign, with joined certain planets that all can kind of influence that. But like debilitated moon, we wouldn't want to put too much emphasis because that's just one thing, right?
So what about the lunar eclipse with Trump's birth? Like what would that?
It's a
indicate?
debilitated moon and eclipsed, so it's
Okay.
like his
It's
mom
not
did
really-
not give him love,
Mm.
right? So he doesn't know how to receive love. Right?
Or
He
give
doesn't-
it,
Exactly, right? And that's our capacity to love is
contingent upon what we
what
get.
we got, right? And then if it's bad, like if it's in that condition, we didn't get the nurturing, we've gotta work through all that to be able to, right? So, like if our karma is a debilitated moon, that means that we're gonna have to face that, the fact that mom wasn't there to support me, all that stuff, and then I can go back and say, I'm here now, that past me, I'm here now and I can love you, right? And then that need for the mom disappears because I'm capable of self-love, right? So it's just, it's not like you're stuck with that forever, but that'll be what happens. So it gives us the ability to connect and absorb it with, and it wants us to accept everything exactly as it is. I use the mom, but I almost want to change that to grandma, right? Because grandma isn't attached to how you turn out as much as the
Right.
mom is.
Unless you're.
Grandma, like my grandma.
This is my mom.
My grandma,
She's very attached to how my brother's kids turn out.
okay, yeah.
But she's kind of surrogate mom.
1000%.
Yeah, she's
So
not
that's a
playing,
good point.
she's not playing the full grandma.
Right.
She's not. She's actually playing mom too.
So-
So that's a good point.
I had a really great relationship with my mom's grandparents.
Your
So my
mother's-
great
your
great
great-grandparents.
grandparents, because we had a 20, 40, 60, 80 situation going on.
Mm-hmm.
So my great grandpa, and I went to grandma and grandpa's house and I knew I could just be me, and they loved me just the way I was, right? And then that's the feeling that I like want to capture to understand the moon, where it wants to be, just that I love this kid no matter who or what happens. So proud of just you right here, right now, right? And so that's where we want to get with it.
That was my grandma.
That's where we want to get with it, is that everybody, everything, it's all great. You know, I can love it all. So let's
That's a
do the
really good
sliding
qualifier,
scale.
Yeah, it is.
'cause it's very true.
The grandma versus
Yeah,
mom.
that's a really good qualifier.
Yeah, because moms have their
Well,
idea
they're
of
still
what
working.
they. Yeah,
We're
exactly.
still raising you, we still have to put boundaries.
Yeah, yeah.
You wouldn't know anything about that, right?
No.
So the diminished moon on the sliding scale would be like uncaring, apathetic, just can't manufacture any care. And then if we go past that, loving, caring, everything's great, it would be that smothering, clinging.
Oh.
Yeah. Hey, do we have a little thing there? Did we press a button?
No.
Where do we want to go with that?
I don't know, it's just, it's funny, like, my mom, you know, it's interesting because I'm looking at this in light of like my mom's relationship with my grandmother who passed.
Okay.
And like, my grandmother adored me, and she and my mom had a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was a thing, and my father's mother, who I was 3 years old when she died, who has come into my life in spiritual manifestation, very, very supportive, but had a very stern relationship with my dad. And my mom took on the feature with my brother and I of, for a lot of our, not so much now, I mean, when they get older, they kind of, you know, distance, great distance, but it was very much like in the business, like, you know, smothering and.
Right.
And I always felt like it was, well, because she was making up for the lack of relationship she had with, you know, my
How,
grandmother.
like, that's textbook, right? It's
Yeah.
like, because I
Totally
didn't get the
textbook, right.
perfect childhood, I'm gonna create the perfect childhood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, and then my dad, on the other side, it's changed now as he's gotten older, but for the most part was pretty emotionally unavailable to my brother and I. Which didn't bother me as much as it did my brother, and that's like a whole other thing. So,
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how the grandparents play themselves out with, you know, with your own parents.
Right. Yeah, just because that charge reduces
Right.
over time, that
Right.
you're not so invested
Mhm.
in
Right.
every little thing that happens, right? So, I think y'all have some good homework for the moon.
We're only on 2 planets.
I know,
We
man.
got 4 more to go.
Alright, so Mars. Mars. It's our source of conditioned animal instinct which fights for survival and defends our boundaries. The capacity to put ideas into action and do the right thing at the right time is related to Mars. So on a physical level, our body's strength and protective instinct comes from Mars.
So fight or flight?
It's the fight in the fight or flight,
Okay, got it.
right? So there's an obstacle in front of me, I'm going through that bitch. Yeah, that's what Mars does. I'm going through it.
When you say it's the source of conditioned instinct, so conditioned from your
All of our
karma, your.
and our genetic things we've
Okay.
learned from our parents, how to deal with an obstacle is to get pissed off and throw a temper tantrum. All that stuff is like that built into the software that we came with, right? So then once we learn that that's not the obstacle, this is, right? That's what we're supposed to do with Mars is, I'm too weak to do the right thing, it's not their fault. So, through the mind, our capacity to surmount external challenges and handle conflict with other people is related to Mars and energy.
So resiliency, no?
Right, it's like, so there's an argument, or there's a conflict, or something like that. Don't just give in, right?
Or
Don't just
run
give
away,
in.
yeah.
Right, don't just run away,
Yeah.
don't avoid the conflict, right? That's a Mars, that's creating karma with Mars. Eventually you'll have to, right? The more you avoid it,
It'll come
it's
back.
coming hard, right? It'll come,
Oh, it's gonna
he's gonna
knock
teach,
down your door.
he's gonna teach you that lesson, one way or the other.
Got to do it.
You're gonna do it now when it's easy, or you wanna do it later when it sucks ass? Yeah.
Totally.
So at a spiritual level, our ability to act with courage and discipline comes from Mars. Instead of blaming others and playing the victim, we need to find and overcome any limitations or obstacles that prevent us from embodying our higher self.
This goes to what you were just sharing about on Facebook.
Yeah. Exactly.
Playing the victim, right?
Playing the victim.
Yeah.
Look at you all up there.
His stuff is like, you gotta read it.
Oh, no,
right?
you gotta like ponder.
You gotta sit with it.
It's gotta be sat with.
Every
Right.
sentence, like, okay, what was that?
And it's funny how, like, I know you're there now.
Oh yeah, I pay attention.
A lot of people do, like, a lot of people are invisible looking, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's little stalkers, right? Not that there's anything wrong with that,
Yeah.
but it's like, sometimes it's like, I don't know where you are or who you are, but I know you need this, and boom, there it is,
Yeah.
right? It's like, I've been tuning in to what's happening now, and everyone
doesn't
needs this
that-
challenge.
Doesn't that kind of go to what you were noticing with Greta as well, though?
Exactly.
That's the connection that I was making, is
Right.
that this was speaking to, even in the sense of the doom and gloom.
Right.
Can be dangerous as, on a collective level.
Yeah, everyone should be afraid, like, fuck that, you know what I mean? Who's ever done their best work when they're scared?
Well,
Anybody?
There's also, I mean, and I get where she's coming from, she's like, wake the fuck up, but at the same time.
I get it.
Right.
She's
Yeah.
trying to kick down
And
doors,
some
but it's
people,
like,
and some people, that's the only way they wake the fuck up.
A lot of people.
yeah.
But it's also when you're reading this and realizing
This is
the
part of it.
blip,
But that goes back
the
to it.
blink that we've been here, and that this is a bigger thing than just us. And so it's like, trying to see, I can see both sides, but that's what I was hearing, like, still don't give away your power, and like.
There's another thing that goes into it that I've written about, is that when somebody's not ready to wake up, and you say, wake up anyways, it's mind rape.
Yeah, I agree with that, I agree with that. You don't get to decide.
You don't get to decide that this is
No.
their time to wake up. Their karma decides when it's time to wake up.
That's
Oh,
really
that's very
powerful.
interesting.
I like that. That's
So-
been something I sat with.
It's psychological rape is what it is when you're just like, I'm putting my agenda onto you, and whether you like it or not.
So let me ask you this, because reading Guppy's book and then just given the conversation and what you've just said, what does it really matter?
Right.
Like, what does any of this really matter at the end of the day? Who cares
Who
if
cares
the
if
human
it's a climate
species,
crisis?
right, who cares if the
We're all
world
going up in the
blows
bottom.
up, you know, and
Right.
the human species just goes out and shoots each other or destroys it, or who
We're
really
ready.
cares? I guess,
We're okay.
why does it even matter? I mean, if we
Right.
come back to the energetics of this, you know, I would imagine Geppy would say, and perhaps you would say, this would just manifest somewhere else at some point in time,
Mhm.
and then resurrect exactly what we were doing here,
Right.
until such time as we maybe did figure it out.
But our thing to do then is like, are we saying I don't care because we're apathetic or because we're detached? Where are we on the spectrum of that?
Yeah, I guess that raises the question, isn't
Right.
it?
And then that also brings into spiritual bypassing.
Right,
Yeah.
is it apathy?
Mhm.
Can you just not care? Is that what the deal is? Or is it that you're like, I'm not afraid of what's at the end of that situation. I'm ready, if that's what life calls on me to do. My Mars says, fuck yeah, let's do it, bring it on. Buckle
It's
up,
also-
cowboy.
Yeah, but when you're talking about like Trump and Greta, like they're also like these two opposite spectrums
Mm-hmm,
as well. You know, one's young and being more mature, one's old
Right.
and a big baby, but.
but they're
One's
both,
really red, one's white.
but they're both,
But they're both on.
combative.
Yes, that's what, but they're still not
Right.
in the center.
We haven't seen the moon in that situation. Everything's okay? We love you anyways, even though you're making things bad, right? Where's that? Where are those role models?
You have to go to Jane Goodall.
Right? Okay, so Mars is that ability to challenge and overcome, wants us to walk our talk and take action. Right, so diminished, it's a doormat and can't finish, procrastinate, all those things when we know what the right thing to do is and we don't put it into action. So in excess, it's that alpha dog dominate, not dominate like the sun where it's more of a challenge. You know those alpha males, they're like, I'm walking in the room and I'm the big dog in town, right?
That's a sun.
That's also Mars.
It's also Mars.
It's also Mars. The sun is more like, obey me, I'm in charge here.
Got
And
it.
the Mars is more like, I'll fight everyone
Right.
until I'm the top dog,
Brute
right?
strength.
Yeah, that.
The noisemaker on the car.
Mm-hmm.
So is Mars more egoic and the sun is more,
Right.
positional?
The sun is more like, I'm the king here, right? And
Yeah, positional's a good word.
yeah, right. And then Mars is more like the warrior.
But that would be excess, or would that be in the center? if the warrior-
So,
I mean, I can see a healthy, strong warrior as
so
well.
I've got an exalted Mars in my
Okay.
chart, right? So what it gives is focus, right? For anything to manifest, we have to destroy the rest of infinity, right? Shiva?
Yep.
If anything, to get that single pointed awareness, we need to be able to destroy everything else that's not that.
Shiva style.
Shiva style. Yeah.
What is Mars listed as on this?
MA.
MA?
Yeah.
So what does the GRFR stand for?
Oh, so that's like it's what we call its dignity. That's its state of awareness.
Oh, okay, so that's
That's,
not,
don't worry about that.
okay,
That-
I didn't know if that meant
That's
diminished
not 101
or-
stuff. That's
Okay.
a little more farther down the
But
road.
how do you tell if it's diminished?
We'll learn that
I have
later.
Mars in-
Oh, well, it's okay.
Teaser. I know we
Yeah.
wanna know all the stuff right now.
I want you to look inside to see, is that diminished or is it?
I was
definitely
a procrastinator, so I would have
to Yeah. say
yes, it probably
Where's your Mars?
Leo.
Yeah, Mars is in Leo.
But what's Maga? I mean, it says Maga, see, I thought Maga
It's
was
strong.
Mars, but that's, Maga's
Yeah.
the sun.
That's the
No.
position that it's in,
No, it's the
right?
position.
That's why I was
That's
saying
the
that
position.
right now, the moon is in
Yeah.
that position right now. So right now, the moon is going over your natal Mars, right?
Uh-huh.
So when those things touch,
Uh-huh.
something happens, right? So those that's how timing works, right? When we've got a planet that's all juiced up, ready to do some karma, and then in the sky, something passes over it, boom, time.
So what about like, I'm thinking like, these are people fighting, military, like,
Right.
Navy SEALs or.
You're gonna see strong Mars because they don't need to feel good. They're ready to make themselves strong, and I'm ready to put into action what I believe in, right?
And that would be healthy, that would be,
Exactly.
okay.
Right. So like yoga is where you wanna look at, like, the exalted Mars is the yogi, right? Because it's not about that aggressive action, it's about calm, focused action, right?
Yeah, I like that.
Arjuna.
Exactly, yeah. So, you guys got some Mars homework too. Alright, Mercury. Mercury is our source of cognitive function, which gathers and shares information. The capacity to try new things, develop skills, and communicate with precision and accuracy is related to Mercury. So on a physical level, our body's ability to analyze and process sensory input-output comes from Mercury. Through the mind, our pursuit of information, skills, fun, social interaction is related to Mercury's energy. At a spiritual level, our ability to approach and experience with childlike curiosity and observe life without confirmation bias comes from Mercury. When we get stuck in this cycle of conditioned behavior, like the Mars wants to do the same thing over and over, right? When we get stuck in that cycle, Mercury helps us find a way out of the current paradigm by changing our perspective and not taking outcomes so personally. So it gives us all that information that the moon is bringing in. This Mercury puts it all in the place where we can understand what's happening. And this is why I said on that post that debilitated Mercury is the victim, because I can't piece together what's happening, so it's happening to me. Right? It's happening to me because I can't see why it's happening.
So like, the info that's coming in from the moon gets kind of categorized or compartmentalized.
Compartmentalized, so Virgo's like the compartmentalization, and then Gemini's the sharing of that information.
So when it's in retrograde, it's like it's all spun out weird.
So what happens when a planet's retrograde is like the external stuff gets disrupted, so you have to think about how I'm using that thing. How am I communicating? How am I understanding how everything works? That's why the car breaks down, because I just get in and turn the key. I don't want to think about how this thing works.
Well, and that's the thing I love about what Gabby talks about, is that we don't understand how things work.
Right.
You know, so that whole, and I love
None
the
of us
riff
Yeah.
on the science part of it, like with the 5-year-old child. Well, how does this go? How does this
Right.
go? And it's
Here's
just-
a candy.
Right, exactly. Here's a piece of candy. You know, and it's
But
true.
like how the car works is
Right.
understandable. We can understand that.
Right.
If it breaks down, we're forced to figure out what the hell is wrong with this thing, and then we need to learn a little bit more how it works.
Right, we call AAA.
Right.
I was gonna say, we.
Exactly. We call AAA, they come and they tell.
Yeah.
Um,
Right, but your
yeah.
brain wants to understand, how does this thing
Yes.
work? How am I moving at 60 miles an hour by pressing my foot down?
Right.
How come I can just press a button and I'm talking to somebody around the world?
Right.
That's so cool. How does it work? I want to know. Right? That's what Mercury's doing. It's like, I know how this stuff works.
It's curiosity.
Yeah, it gives us an ability to understand the world, so it assembles the details into a coherent picture, right? It wants to gather and organize the details precisely and accurately. So if we're sliding it on the scale, on the dark end of the scale, it's confused, it's overwhelmed, it's just like too much for me to understand. My brain doesn't work like that. And then we get to that point where we're like understanding, we got it all figured out, and then we go to the excess, and it's just that seeking and obsession. That, what's the next book gonna tell me? What's the next book gonna tell me? That gotta get it, like more information. So it's like spinning its wheels. It's gathering a lot of information, but it's doing exactly nothing with it. Like, great, you got PhDs and this and that and that. And like, you get those professional school goers, right? That have all. It's like, what are you doing with all that? Like, you know.
Professional students.
I was a professional school goer, and what am I doing with it?
I've got 10 master's degrees.
That's what I do. I teach
What do
yoga.
you do with your PhD?
That's what I do.
I've got
Teach
10
yoga.
master's degree and I'm pumping gas. You know, it's like, you gotta do something.
What's
with
actually
it.
interesting is that like going through that process, because Michael and I have had this conversation multiple times, because we have very similar academic paths, and like, we were like, if we had just started studying this earlier, I could
Right.
have saved myself so much money, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't regret any of it at all, but it's just, it's interesting, you know, what we see as valuable.
But that excess mercury is always feels like it's missing information,
Oh,
right?
right.
Always missing information. What is the thing? You know, it's
Right.
that's what I ran into a lot with the personal development. It's like everybody had 100 books on their bookshelf and they maybe read one page. You know, it's like
Yeah.
that's not it. Next thing, that's not it. They're just so overstimulated. They're not going anywhere with it.
Well, so it seems to me that would be a weak Mercury in that regard.
Not excess.
But you're saying excess. I mean, I guess I see it.
It's
in-
like
excess energy.
super. It's going too fast, too
Okay.
hard. It's just like
Well, both
gathering all
ends
sorts of
are not
information.
good.
Right.
Like
Right.
diminish,
Yeah.
like
The
when
middle way.
it's dark or it's too much, they're both not where you wanna be. So
Right,
they're
it's like
kind of both negative.
one of them's like you're trying to use it and it just collapses on you,
Mhm.
right? That would be like Mercury, like trying to put together the picture of what's happening, but it just falls apart, you know? And then excess is like, I've got all the little micro pictures, but I've got no bigger picture, right? That's where Jupiter comes along next.
So that's where the center is basically gaining the information for the next step.
Yeah.
Being able to see the next step rather than just stepping.
Right, it's like, I need this skill now for this thing that I'm doing right now, so I'm gonna develop that skill and use it. Rather than be like, I might need a PhD in psychology because I'm doing this, so I'm gonna sidetrack this path that I've got going on and get my PhD so that I can have credentials and all that stuff, right? It's like, let's see what I can do with it right now.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's very, isn't that interesting?
So interesting.
All right.
So are these in
Moving on.
order? Like, for instance, you're giving us these, is there a specific reason why you're doing it in this
So
order?
Parashara gave it in this order, and that's an interesting order because this follows the days of the week. So when we do our little diagram after this.
Sunday.
Sunday, Moon Day, Monday. Tuesday is Greek for Mars Day. And then Wednesday, Woden's Day, Odin's Day is Mercury. And then today is Thursday. Thor's Day is Jupiter.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Thor's, do we get a?
And then Friday is Freya's Day, and that's Venus. And then
Okay.
Saturday, Saturn's Day.
Yeah, because Venus is all about the love.
Yeah, right, yeah. Getting all prettied up, going out to the club.
Yeah, those days are over.
Alright, so Jupiter's our source of big picture beliefs and philosophies that connect the how to a why. The capacity to feel a sense of purpose and direction expanding towards a higher version of ourselves is related to Jupiter. So on a physical level, our body's ability to grow and heal itself comes from Jupiter. So you want to see that Jupiter in Ayurveda.
Mhm.
How can I heal from disease? So through the mind, our belief in other people and worldly philosophies is related to Jupiter's energy. It's where a lot of it gets stuck. And then at a spiritual level, our ability to trust the invisible energies and use our intuition as a guidance system comes from Jupiter. So it's that conceptual, it's fuzzy with the details, that's why its signs are across from Mercury. So it's conceptual, it's abstract, it's philosophical, which is what you see a lot of in the world right there. Like everybody's got this is what should happen. Okay, well, how? Right? You don't see any of that. That's why I like Warren. I like Elizabeth Warren because she's got action plans. She's got ideas and things. And like, I like her a lot. Cause she's not just be like, you know, Bernie is a big, should this, that, is like, how are you gonna make this work?
I
That's
love
a
Bernie.
little bit, I know.
I actually, you were speaking my language.
I-
Totally.
But I do get it.
I like Bernie, he's walked his talk.
Yeah.
and-
Yes, that's what I
and-
appreciate
He
about
needs to be a supporter, he's not the guy to
Right,
do the action.
he's gotta be somebody's Jupiter.
Yes,
And
Yeah.
so he's the teacher, the guru, that's what Jupiter's
Yes.
called in Sanskrit, it's guru.
He is the guru.
but
So-
he's not the plan action dude.
Yeah.
And that's
like
okay, that's
the
why we
nuts
should
and
go
bolts,
together.
right?
They
He gets
should.
lost in the nuts and bolts.
Yes.
And that's where Warren comes in.
A Warren Bernie ticket.
I'm on
So
board.
It seems like you would then be one making the case for Bernie being the president, because that is the person that would
Who's
just
the
sort of
big
sets the
picture.
big
But he can't get it
tone.
done.
Well, no, but that's when you
I
have
want
your
him to-
lieutenants who
I
do
want
all
him-
of the work.
I don't want him to be the king, I want him to
I
be
know.
the advisor.
You want to be the advisor.
He's
Yeah.
the council.
Yeah. So without some,
yeah, 100%.
without some
100%.
kind of answer for why all this is happening, we can't go on living life and picking ourselves up after life knocks us down. So Jupiter helps us transcend the deep difficulties of life and keep on believing that the sun will rise again tomorrow. So we all have an answer, or else we would have just ended it all last night,
Okay.
right?
All right,
Yeah.
sure, no
That's
problem with that.
like, what keeps us going? Why, you know? That's Jupiter. Your Jupiter is that. Why am I still going? So it gives us an ability to see the big picture, and it wants us to expand towards our higher power. So if we're sliding the scale, the diminished Jupiter, hopeless, lost, materialistic. It doesn't mean anything other than it's just a giant machine cranking.
There's a lot of people who believe that.
I know.
So you said hopeless, lost, and what was the other one?
There's no metaphysical reason for anything. It's just wheels on the
Let's
sky
go
keep
round and
turning.
round.
Yeah. That was the first song that came on when I turned on the car.
Wheels on the
Wheel
bus.
in the sky keeps on turning. Yeah, I love that song.
Is that?
Journey.
That's
I was just
Journey,
gonna say,
yeah.
That is Journey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then on the other end
So
of it.
slide it all the way past where it's supposed to be, and we're idealistic, we're bypassing, we're trying to transcend every little thing, don't let it touch me. So that's the philosophical that can never get in the nuts and bolts. The Bible says it, good enough for me. I don't need to understand why or how, believe it.
Faith without faith, there is
Yeah.
no faith.
So it's like philosophical, that's where we want it to be, that kind of, I've got a big picture, I'm expanding towards it.
So it really is faith, because I mean, the definition of faith is belief in something you cannot prove.
Mm-hmm. Trust,
Okay, so it's more like trust.
trust.
Okay.
I would go
I like
that
that.
intuitive trust, like,
That's in
because
excess, or that?
that is where we want it to be, that's
That
where
is
we want it to
wants
be. We want it to be in trust. Where we don't just have to believe, we know.
It's really the third eye.
Yeah.
So when you say
Well-
trust, acceptance.
No, trust that everything will work out.
Right,
gonna work
just
out.
Trust and acceptance.
The sun
acceptance of
is
things.
gonna come up tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe.
Because
maybe.
it always did, yeah. Right.
Maybe not.
I trust
Or
that.
not.
But you don't know that. None of us know.
I trust that it's going to,
But
just
he
based on the
does
fact
know.
that
Yes, it has.
it's done
You're
it
right.
42 billion trillion times.
Well, actually, according to Geppy, it wouldn't have done that because the moon and the sun have really only come into, you know, the relationship in the
And
last,
they're
what did you say,
slowly
100,000
moving out.
years? Well, actually more
Well,
than
we
that.
don't know
We're
how
not dating
fast the
anymore.
earth was
Yeah.
turning before all this
Right.
happened, you know, who knows whether it was stopped, where it, you know, was going faster and it slowed down, I don't know, you know, but right now it's 24 hours.
Every day.
Okay, so now that we're all philosophical and all that stuff, we've got ideals, Venus comes along and said, prove it, buddy.
Venus.
What happens
Prove your love.
You're the spiritual guru. What happens when a hot piece of tail comes along? Venus comes along.
I don't know.
That's
Yeah,
that
like,
self-control
this is
now.
like-
Take that to the Hare Krishna show.
This is the
Right.
Oh
best
yeah, go for
video.
that.
Yeah,
Right? So
watch out for that.
Venus is our source of sensual pleasure and enjoyment, which keeps track of our needs and other people's. The capacity to compromise some of our desire in service of a mutual goal is related to Venus. On a physical level, our body's sensory attractions and regulatory chemicals come from Venus. So through the mind, our ability to make other people happy and respect their needs as equal to our own is related to Venus. At a spiritual level, our ability to experience happiness for no reason beyond self and others without condition or transaction comes from Venus. So all the 7 planets are equally important, but it seems like most of our difficulties are wrapped up in our navigation of Venus's energy. We come here to test what we think we know in the world of desire, and consequence and relationships are the focal point of this testing ground. So
This is really where the senses live.
exactly. So the moon gives us the ability to have a sense, and then Venus is how that sense feels.
And how it gets tested.
Right. So it's the textures, the colors, the sounds like that. It's looking for the good stuff, right? So it gives us an ability to relate and to compromise, right? So you need to have this ability to know to find that common ground, you need to know what the other person wants, right? And then you've got to kind of like navigate that ground. As I'm here, you're here, where can we come in the middle without both of us losing too much ground? We got to have Venus for that. So
it's a negotiating planet.
it's our manners, it's our diplomacy, it's our artistic ability. Can we make things beautiful? Can we enjoy things that are beautiful? Or does it have to be just this way? So on the sliding scale of Venus, we've got the intolerant, uncompromising person where it's diminished, right? Or like with that time where we've got to understand what they need and know what I need, and then we kind of navigate that. People without a Venus just drops right off and like, I don't care what you want, I'm uncompromising, this is how it is.
It's like a chord experience.
My way or the highway.
That's
So
the weak,
annoying.
that's the weak.
That's
That's
the
the
weak
weak,
side.
like it can't cut, like you can't channel
Can't give.
that energy. You're just gonna be like, my way or the highway, buddy.
That was our
So
annoying.
That was our total
Experience last
experience last week.
in excess, it's that just over sensual, just people pleasing.
Like, when you say that, like the sycophant kind of person?
So it's like uncompromising and over compromising. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we have whatever you want. Okay, just, I want you to be happy and I'll be the martyr.
The martyr. We have a few martyrs in our family.
But it's like that transaction happens, like we've gotta find that common ground, and if you sell too much for that deal to happen, you're like, ugh, I lost too much, I gave up too much ground, and then it just like starts wearing on you, and then eventually Mars comes out, right? Like that balance, those two planets are in opposition to each other. Where it's like, I can't believe you keep taking advantage of me. It's like, you conditioned me to take advantage of you, right? So every time you say yes, ma'am, you're saying it's okay to walk all over you. You know? But then it's always easier to point the finger, right? You did this to me.
Right. And so you did this to me, is that the side of the scale of intolerant, uncompromising, or the
Other side,
over
where it's
sexual,
like,
people pleasing?
I'll just do whatever it takes to make you happy because I can't.
But then you resent them because you give it. to
Right,
them.
because I can't put up with
Kind of
I'm
like
not strong enough to
passive-aggressive
put my
mindset.
principles into act, right? The Mars is gone, right? It's like, the Mars is, the Venus is too much and the Mars isn't enough. It's like, I can't put in action what I believe, right? It's like, ooh, they're standing their ground and I feel like I can't stand my ground, so I'd be like, okay, whatever makes you happy. Just
Because
keep the
Mars
peace.
isn't
Keep the
present.
peace, keep the peace, yeah.
Does each of these planets specifically relate to a chakra?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what's the Venus chakra?
heart.
Heart.
The heart. All right, so then if you are to measure, like do one of those, I don't know, there's so
Scans?
many different, the scan, let's just call it a scan, and where they're looking at that, then if everything is lined up, then it's an indication that the energetics are flowing and that things are pretty balanced and things should be happening the way they should happen and you're pretty in touch with what's going on.
Yeah, I
And
hope
one's-
so. I hope that all lines
Okay,
up.
and one's askew, or several are askew,
Right.
then this is the work that needs to be done in some form or
Right,
fashion.
if you had issues with Mercury, you're gonna see throat chakra stuff, right? You can't find my voice, right? That's what Mercury's doing.
Yep.
Alright,
You
so we
can
had
test
lots
for
of
it
fun.
in the pulse, too.
Yeah.
You can test for
In the
chakra
pulse.
vibration in the pulse.
In the pulse.
I have a lot of Ashuta people.
Yeah,
Hmm.
A lot of Ashuta people, and I have a lot of root chakra people. So, a lot of.
Let's get to the root chakra.
Yeah, it's just.
We had all sorts of fun with Venus, now we're
Yeah,
getting
that's
serious.
yeah.
Saturn
A lot
time.
of Saturn people.
Saturn's time.
Mhm.
So Saturn is our source of time-bound awareness, which is the storehouse of our past mistakes that we want to avoid repeating in the future. So this is flight, fight or flight, their flight. I don't want to get hurt again, I'm gonna avoid. So the capacity to set boundaries and stick to priorities and endure short-term pain for long-term gain is related to Saturn. On a physical level, our body's vital functions and ability to stay alive comes from Saturn. Through the mind, our capacity to hold on or let go of long-term goals related to Saturn. At a spiritual level, our ability to experience peaceful solitude, comfortable silence, and complete stillness comes from Saturn. Everything we've ever accomplished through our own effort is partly thanks to Saturn. When the going gets tough, Saturn keeps us going just as long as we aren't afraid to do the work. So that's the biggest problem with Saturn is avoidance, right? We're trying to avoid the pain, and so we avoid the work. So it gives us the ability to commit or let go. So hold on, let go. When's the time to do that? When's the time to hold on? When's the time to let go? That's what Saturn is gonna do. It wants us to be realistic with our energy. We've got this much time, we've got this much energy. Get your priorities straight. And that's what a Saturn lesson is gonna teach you. If your priorities are messed up, it's the planet of karma, really. Saturn is. If you're avoiding, it's gonna bring the chaos. If you're avoiding the work, it's gonna be like, here's the illness, right? So Jupiter's the planet of health and healing, and Saturn would be the planet of disease. So on the sliding scale, the diminished one would be the wishy-washy martyr, can't commit, can't let go. Either one. Right, Saturn and the sun and moon are across from each other, so if you see no Saturn, you'll see the other one, like the dominance, don't honor boundaries, that you'd see that one come through from the weak Saturn. Like the clingy can't let go because it's Saturn isn't strong enough to say, time to let go, I'm detached.
So the clingy is the extreme, the other extreme?
So that's the
No, that's
diminished,
diminished.
right? Yeah, it would be either
Wishy-washy,
holding on
can't
too
commit.
tight, or I can't
Can't let go.
hold on at all, right?
Right.
Either one of those, I can't access the time, when it's time to let go, I can't access Saturn to say I'm detached and I can let go. When
So
it's time.
is avoidance then weak?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be weak.
Alright.
So then, in excess, we're just ruthless, cold-hearted, strategic, everything for a reason, and none of it involves you.
So that's just the me, mine all the time.
Right. Cause I'm stuck in fight or flight, right? I can't think outside that paradigm of the reptile. Alright, so each of these 7 energies is a component of human nature. Some components you may recognize as a source of difficulty in your life, and others may seem completely natural and operate with ease. This condition of ease or difficulty is a measurement of your karma with each planet. If one planet is placed in a difficult area of the sky and influenced by other planets it doesn't agree with, it shows you have difficult karma to work through in your life. And that doesn't mean you're stuck with it forever. It just means that to learn, there's a lot of inertia to overcome, right?
So read that again. just-
Yeah.
just for-
Okay, so
It's here.
if one planet is placed in a difficult area of the sky and influenced by other planets that it doesn't agree with, it shows that you have difficult karma to work through in your life. When the time comes that you need to work on that karma, you will receive the fruits of your past actions and you will get the opportunity to test what you think you've learned. Oh,
boy.
so I think I learned my Venus lesson. Here it comes. Let's see. Can
Can I step up and?
I honor myself as well as the other person? So I spent too much time honoring the other person, and I didn't honor my own as equal, or vice versa, where I took too much and I didn't give enough. So the relationship ended, right? Because there's no balance.
So since nature typically creates balance and finds balance, has there been, to your knowledge, anything that says that given humans, that there's an equal disbursement of people into these various things as to what's dominating, or it's like there's more that would be loaded into this area of having this particular planet dominating versus that one, or?
Because the planets are always moving, it'll be in accordance with whatever's happening, right? So
So it could be equally distributed?
it could be.
Okay.
But like, right now, it's gonna be Saturn in this part of the chart loaded because it takes 30 years to go all the way around, right? So you'll
Right.
see a lot of them are gonna have that same, cause I know like 1979 through that, I'll have Saturn in Leo, right? I'll see that, and if they're born in 79, I know Saturn's in Leo, because that's where it was that time. I can't keep track of all of them, but that one is 3 years in one sign, so I got the pattern down, right? So I know. But like I said, 30 years it takes to go through, so you'll see a big chunk of them with that karma, and then, we're about to have 7 years of Saturn in its own sign, so we'll get more intelligence. We'll get people born with more Saturn intelligence, and then we've got a transient opportunity to learn the lessons. Because it's in the sky, it's operating with ease, so it's communicating with that part of ourselves that like, okay, this hasn't been a traditionally easy thing for me to learn, but now I've got that opportunity because it's more available to me in the sky. That makes sense. So I did these diagrams. I did one the way that you see it in the chakras. And that's also how you see it in the solar system.
Very nice chart.
Thank you.
Very
And then this other one is done in the order I did it, which is the Vedic way, which has the days of the week. So this is kind of like our unfolding consciousness, right? We've got that sun comes out first. Are you good?
I'm trying to figure out which chapter I'm supposed to.
Oh, so
do.
it's
That's
behind you
tab
too.
Oh, there we
There you
go,
go.
alright.
Right, so that's the one with the chakras, that shows you.
Got it.
And that's like just a quick dirty breakdown of what Sam did in the book. Just so you can kind of have that all in one spot rather than flipping through pages. But this one here has this evolving process and what each one is, right? And we've kind of gone through it more interactively so that you guys can kind of figure out, and I think everybody kind of landed on their particular relationship with each of these, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But this is just gonna be like a reference to come back to, is like, what was that again? And how is it trying to evolve, right? The sun with through the body is that physical fitness, healthy vitality, self-confidence, and then the mind is career, family responsibilities, providing for others, and then at the spirit's inspired action, consistent vision, generous seeker of truth. Truth seeker. So what I wanted to do here that I didn't do on the thing is ground these in lesson 1. So each of the planets has a element that's associated with, and also a guna. So the sun is a sattvic planet, right? It wants to give. And it's obviously related to the element of fire. So it's gonna be our healthy pitta, right? That digests impressions and thoughts and food. It's gonna burn away the impurities. That's what the sun's gonna do. The moon is also a sattvic planet because it gives care and love and food and nourishment. And it's related to the element of water. It's emotional. But if it's like a dark moon, like a new moon, or within the day of, within a couple days on either side of the new moon, it's actually a Vata planet because it's combust. I think of like the moon as it's filling up like our emotional health meter.
So when it's not on either end of the new moon, then is it a Kapha planet?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
Kapha.
Say that again, when it's not what?
When it's not on either end of a new moon, so either a few days before new moon or a few days after new moon.
Right,
It's
really
generally-
within the couple days.
Yeah.
Like, when there's dark, it's
Right.
totally dark.
Right.
That's when
That's
it's
when-
gonna be like, there's no ability to hold, right? You
Mhm.
can't hold the water.
But in
can't hold the
general,
light.
it's a Kapha planet.
Okay.
It's an earth element,
Oh
obviously.
yeah, he mentioned that too.
Which you'll usually see people with like the dark moon, new moon, have there's pros and cons to that. Like, it's not so clingy and holding on to things, like, so you can be spiritual if you get on that path, but it can be also really hyper emotional, and because you can't hold, like, I can't hold this moment, it's dark, right? So so Mars is a
Josic planet.
tamasic planet, and it's related to the element of fire, but wet fire, like acid. So
Or lava.
lava, exactly.
Mhm.
Yep. So a tamasic planet, we're meant to keep to ourselves. The sattvic planet, we want to give away. We want to give away our sunlight. We want to give away our moon. We want to do all that. We want to give nurturing and love. We want to give light and power. But Mars, that fighting, aggressive energy, we want to keep that in here and don't direct that out there. So, first thing we do with Mars is look, where's my weakness? How did this happen? What is the limitation in here that created this situation?
That's the way to work with it, help.
That's how you'd want to, like this, I can see right now is a Mars situation, so I'm not gonna release that onto my partner right now. I'm gonna go punch a punching bag or channel it into some action.
Got it.
And then I'll come back and when I can talk without my Mars right there hanging loose.
It should be like a good code word. Go deal with your Mars.
Yeah.
Mars is very strong.
Right.
Best to just.
Right. Mars is kind of funky right now. So is that unhealthy pitta then?
Yes, like middle of the road, right? It's
I mean,
doesn't.
it's a pitta planet.
It's a pitta planet, and the Mars diseases are usually like inflammation. And eye problems.
Yep.
And liver.
Yep, liver.
Yeah. No, liver's more Jupiter.
Liver is,
It's-
it's a
yeah.
pitta organ
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. So Mercury is a Rajasic planet, meant for the exchange. Like we're sharing right now, listening, talking, that kind of imbalance, right? And it's related to the element of air. It's our healthy Vata planet. It gets us moving. When we're stuck, we gotta think of something new to do, and that's what Mercury helps us do. So Jupiter is the other sattvic planet. We wanna give away our Jupiter. Right now, I'm giving you my Jupiter.
All the Jupiters. We appreciate you.
And it is a healthy kappa planet. The moon is like a medium level, it's a little too emotional. Jupiter's got just the right amount of kappa.
What's the element?
Yeah, what did you?
It's water.
Water.
It's watery and fiery, in a healthy way. It's like
It's a
inspirational.
good balance.
Like it's inspirational pitta, right? We've got that thing that ideal is more of a Sagittarius fiery thing.
So would you say it was sattvic?
It's not
It's
big,
sattvic,
yeah. We don't wanna hang on.
It's a
our-
good give.
We don't wanna hang on to
Not
Jupiter.
an
We're not
overgive.
storing that up for anything. We're giving it away as soon as we get it. That's what my Facebook is my Jupiter territory. Can't just hang on to this, I gotta share it.
Get it out. People are absorbing it.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
so Venus is a Rajasic planet. It's that exchange transaction. And it is a airy planet and watery. We'd be a kappa planet. More because of the indulgence.
Yeah, because too much excess, I mean, you think about it, like, which is interesting, because I understand the exchange part of it, but I could also think on, like, if we're talking about the scale, on one end of the scale, if there's overindulgence, it can become very tamasic.
Yeah, yeah. So Saturn is a tamasic planet. And it is an airy and earthy planet, but mostly it's the unhealthy Vata planet. that stress and anxiety. And everybody's out to get me. But earthy in a like doomsday basement. Get to the bomb shelter. Store my guns.
There's a lot more of that that exists.
Yeah,
than we
there's a
know.
lot of
It's
setting.
amazing how it manifests that way.
Oh.
It's fascinating, actually.
So where's the state of Idaho in this?
We got them all.
We got a blend. Mhm.
That's not what you think. Like, it's like, bad, bad, bad.
Alright, how'd we do?
Awesome.
Any questions? Are we able to contain everything?
Process.
What's up?
No, I was like, any questions? Yes.
Okay,
All of them.
Lots.
hit me.
Wow, I think I don't really have, I'm just,
None right
I
now.
mean, it's just a lot of
You're blowing up
information,
my
just so
phone in
awesome.
30 minutes though, right?
Yeah, but
As
I
you're
can't
driving,
help but-
as you're doing your Venus thing and your air science.
well, so if
While I'm driving.
we are impacted by our mother slash grandmother or like that energy, then is there, you've got, and the sun is the male, kind of
It's a
that male,
masculine planet.
masculine planet, right?
Oh, we didn't do that. I should have done masculine and feminine.
Oh, each planet has.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
So, the sun is a masculine planet, right? It's energy projecting outward. The moon is a feminine planet. It's absorbing. Mars is also a masculine planet. Because it's about action, doing the right thing. Mercury is a neutral planet. It has no gendered charge. It's like so Saturn and Mercury are both kind of gender neutral because like Mercury's like the small child, doesn't have as much gender charge. And then Saturn's like the old person, doesn't have as much gender
Oh,
charge.
interesting.
Jupiter's a masculine planet. And Venus is feminine. So there's only 2 feminine planets, there's 3 masculine and 2 neutral planets. So Moon is feminine like a mother, and Venus is feminine like a lover. The sun is masculine like the father, and Mars is masculine like the fighter, and Jupiter is masculine like the teacher,
Yeah.
the role model.
Mentor.
Yeah. Did that answer the question? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was, but I was also thinking about Trump and like his was born in that lunar and the issues with the mom, but I'm thinking about how when my kids were born, like the moon that, or whatever energy I'm putting into their chart or where it all lined up, that's just really an interesting.
Well, we manifest when everything's in alignment with our karma, right? We don't come out until it's time.
Yeah.
Until it's, everything's arranged just the way that my past lives determined,
Yeah,
right? It's all culminating in that moment. Everything that happened before culminates in that, okay, now it's time, everything matches up with my karma from all the past, and then, boom, now I've got the mother that didn't give me the proper nurturing because maybe I messed up my moon
yeah.
another lifetimes, you know?
So
I
the
wasn't
diminished
sharing
son,
that.
or that's more like father problems? or-
Well, he's got diminished both because it's an eclipse. It's like stealing the light from both of them, right? So,
Awesome.
So good.
so the homework is going to be activate these bad boys in you, know who they are, what your state is with them, how do you feel about Saturn? How are you doing with your Saturn? How are you doing with your Venus? All of them. Just look at it. When I think about making the perfect amount of compromise, where are you at on that one? So just go through all of them.
Which chapters should we read?
Chapter. So where'd you guys get to? You got one.
Chapter 3.
2.
1 and
Okay,
2.
1 and
Oh.
2. So, chapter 3 will summarize what we did the first week, the Vedic principles formalized with the astrology. And then chapter 4, I believe, is today's. Yeah, chapter 4.
Yeah.
Well, chapter 4 will be bringing it all into astrology. Chapter 5 would be today, the planets and their signs. But I don't want to do that one until we've done the signs.
Okay.
So
So
he
not
does it
5.
together, but I'm doing it separately just because I
So we'll
want.
just read 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
So I do have a question.
Sure.
Yes.
3 of us are gonna be gone on one of the same nights in
Okay.
October. I think